We move over to the Middle East now, where Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 13 Palestinians overnight in Gaza, according to local hospitals. Among the dead, 4 were killed in a strike on a car in Gaza City and 8 others in a home in Jabalia. Gazan hospital officials have also confirmed 4 people were killed when a United Nations food warehouse was stormed. The World Food Programme is now calling for urgent aid to prevent starvation. Meanwhile, Israel's far-right finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, has announced the establishment of 22 new settlements in the occupied West Bank, a move widely condemned under international law. On the diplomatic front, however, European nations such as Ireland, Norway, Spain and Slovenia have released a joint statement. This has been done to reaffirm their commitment for the implementation of a two-state solution. We're now joined by Joshua Barnes, anchor and correspondent, to discuss this in further details. Joshua, thank you very much for joining us. We have, over the past couple of days, we have seen chaotic scenes at these aid distribution points led by a private company team with the US and Israel teaming up. What further details can you give us on the ongoing aid distribution by the GHF in Gaza?
Yes, well, Thomas, of course, the situation in Gaza is a tricky one, and that's putting it lightly. Of course, an 11-week aid blockade has led to famine and starvation, according to several humanitarian groups that are working within the Gaza enclave. This, of course, has led to worrying situations for people, but optimism over these aid deliveries. Now, the amount of aid coming in has been a positive sign, but many of these agencies within Gaza are saying that it is just a drop in the ocean. And of course, following the aid coming in now, this from the UN and also, as you've mentioned, from a US-backed group who are working to distribute aid across the Strip, has seen scenes of chaos, scenes of desperation, people that are starving with children at home. The situation can't be understated within Gaza if we believe the reports that the humanitarian agencies are releasing, and it has led to deaths. The storming of a UN storage facility, a chaotic scene in which people are fighting almost for their lives at this point. The aid that's coming in is not enough, and that has led to desperation, and these scenes causing deaths is something that these groups want to avoid, but this is, of course, the start of a longer plan for US aid distribution, US-backed aid distribution, and the situation will hopefully improve for those living in Gaza. But as it stands, chaotic scenes continuing and can be expected to continue as these aid trucks go in. There are fears over this aid getting into the hands of Hamas, something which Israel has been strong in talking about and raising as an issue. Of course, Hamas themselves are living in the enclave and they're dealing with the same issues as the civilians, and famine, hunger, starvation, all topics that have been raised by humanitarian groups. The Israeli and US organisations and administrations want to make sure that this aid goes to those civilians in need.
Joshua, I want to move over to the diplomatic front now. We've now seen rising pressure on Israel, including from that of the UK, France and Canada. Now we have Ireland, Norway, Spain and Slovenia all releasing a joint statement together. We've also obviously seen this announcement of 22 new settlements in the occupied West Bank. What can you tell us about this growing international pressure on the Israeli state?
Well, yes, Thomas, pressure has ramped up. There has been a clear shift from governments that previously have been aligned with Israel and supporting them in their mission to get hostages returned. But this has been a slow shift that has come since the resumption of fighting following the first phase of a ceasefire deal. That, of course, has now ended. A resumption of Israeli military action in Gaza has seen scenes that we saw before that ceasefire was agreed. Displacements of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, deadly strikes being reported by local health officials on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times in a day. To give you an understanding of the level of strikes, in recent days the IDF said that they hit 200 separate sites through ground and air offensives in a 48-hour period. So this is an extremely war-torn area. The humanitarian aspect that we spoke about with aid is something that has been raised by global leaders, and there is now a push towards a potential two-state solution and an end to the conflict. I want to flag some news that we had overnight. On the diplomatic front, of course, Steve Witkoff, who has had this proposal, this plan for a partial hostage release, which would lead to a potential multiple dozen-day ceasefire, potentially 42, maybe 50. Hamas said that they'd agreed to one of these deals, which would see a 70-day truce in exchange for around 10 hostages. We know Steve Witkoff has now released and presented a new plan. Details on that will come soon, and it will be in a similar framework to his previous 42-day ceasefire deal for around 10 hostages. This pressure from global leaders will only make the talks and calls for a ceasefire stronger. I think pressure on the Israeli government to acknowledge what's happening, but also looking towards a solution. Benjamin Netanyahu has made himself clear since the resumption of IDF action within the Gaza enclave. He's been talking about taking full control of Gaza. His aim is to eradicate Hamas from Gaza. He wants them disbanded, he wants them disarmed, and he wants a return of all hostages. This is the golden area in which negotiation teams, including Qatar, Egypt and other countries as well, are working towards, but at the minute there is somewhat of an impasse. The pressure from global leaders will put that pressure on to Israel and their key ally, the United States as well.
Joshua Barnes, thank you very much for joining us on the